Quazi here. Over the last 8 years, I've studied every law of attraction, manifestation, and personal development literature and content under the sun. I've worked with every single coach, anything you can think of, invested over $300,000 in my personal development. Out of everything I study, there's always one principle I always keep coming back to. And this principle is known as the mirror principle. The mirror principle allowed me to have a record-breaking year last year in my business. We did around $2 million in revenue while I worked 4 hours per week in the business, allowing me to spend more time with my family, my hobbies, and really just doing more fun projects in the business rather than, being a slave to it. I didn't start a business to make as much money as humanly possible. I initially built a business so that it would allow me true time freedom, because you can always make more money, but you can't buy more time. Now, within 3 years of starting my business, I quickly forgot that lesson and found myself working 60-hour plus work weeks. And even when I wasn't working, I was constantly thinking about work. My brain was in a frenzy of worry, fear, rushed, and honestly, I was burnt out. But everything changed for me last year when I made a commitment to live by these 5 laws of the mirror principle that I'm about to share with you. So in today's video, we're going to go deep into how the mirror principle truly works and why it's really the ultimate law that will allow you to achieve the greatest level of freedom and control over your reality that you've always been looking for. And the key to the mirror principle is in proper implementation, and I'm going to give you specific protocols on how to do that in this video. So with that, let's get started. The very first law of the mirror, the most fundamental law of the mirror, is the mirror of reality is dual in nature. Okay? The mirror of reality is dual. What does this mean? You'll notice that the mirror of reality has 2 sides. One side is the reflection, which is the physical reality that you're seeing, the material, the things that have already been manifested. So reflection is physical. And the other side, the image, is the metaphysical realm. What does that mean? Well, the metaphysical realm consists of our thoughts and feelings, or the potential, the space of every possible combination of reality that can be manifested. So with the mirror of reality right now, if you look at an actual mirror, you know there's a physical side to it, and there's also a non-physical side to it. Where does the non-physical side go? What are the limits of the non-physical side? It has no limit. It is infinite, right? So everything in our life that can be manifested, any potential reality that hasn't been experienced already, can be experienced in the next moment. It is all dependent on 2 main things, your thoughts and your feelings. The combination of your thought-feeling is what will manifest future moments. Now, there is a persistent illusion in reality. Because the reflection appears to be physical, we start to believe that the only way to change the physical is by physical action. And that's why you see all this talk of work harder, take massive action, fight, struggle, and then you'll get what you want. That is a force mindset, okay? There's 2 different ways, 2 different paradigms of existence. There's the force paradigm, where you try to take. It's a win-lose paradigm. And there's the power paradigm, which is a win-win, which is influencing rather than trying to control and manipulate every single outcome. So in this instance, the force versus power would kind of look like this. If I'm trying to manipulate physical reality to get what I want, let's say I want to start a business, I want to be wealthy, I want to get the relationship that I want, I'm going to go out and take as much action as possible without any consideration of the kind of frequency that I'm in, okay? Without any consideration of the thought-feeling combination, the thought-feeling conjunction that I'm putting out there, that I'm projecting. Okay, so for someone who continually takes action but they don't quite see any result, this is what's happening to you. If you see that, in your business you keep taking action, but the more action you take, it doesn't yield any kind of result. You keep hitting this invisible ceiling in your career, in your business, in your love life, in your health. It's because subconsciously you're projecting something that does not resonate with that. Your thought-feeling combination, aka the frequency that you're in, or the attitude that you have, is not being properly reflected, because internally you're holding yourself to the belief that I am only worthy of what I have right now. I'm only worthy of the 9-to-5 job that I have right now. Okay, let me try this different business opportunity to help me break out of this. Damn it, it doesn't work. I'm gonna try to manifest a relationship, and then you keep attracting a cycle of toxic partners because you believe you're only, hard to hear it, you believe that you're only capable of attracting this one particular kind of partner. You're only good enough to attract this kind of person. There is something unresolved within your psyche that keeps bringing in this same kind of energy. So if you find that you're stuck in your life right now with a similar kind of pattern that you're seeing in any area of your life, it's because that thought-feeling combination is being influenced by something deeper, something more subconscious. So the image that you're presenting to the mirror is distorted. It's not clear. Okay, and we're going to get deeper into how to shift that pattern as we go deeper and deeper into this video. But for now, I really want you to understand that reality presents a very persistent illusion that we can go out and change and shift whatever we want, and then our lives will change. But reality doesn't quite work like that, because what you are experiencing right now is a reflection of the internal attitudes, thoughts, and feelings that you have. When you change those thoughts and feelings and you radiate at a different frequency, a different sector of the parallel reality space will become materialized, will become reflected. But that can only happen not as a result of what you're doing. You're trying to distort the mirror, you try to break the mirror, you try to move the mirror to manipulate it because you want to see what you want to see. You want to control your reality. It doesn't work like that. Okay? One example I can give you is when I wanted to start my business and quit my 9-to-5 because it was soul-sucking, I was burnt out, and I just didn't want to do it. That's not something I really wanted to do for the next 40 years of my life. I made the decision that the only way I could free myself is if I had my own business, a lifestyle kind of business that would allow me this time freedom to do what I wanted, when I wanted, with whoever I wanted. And when I made that intention, I started to notice that there were a lot of these doubts and fears that were coming up. Like, what if I don't make it? Why would people pay me for coaching? You know, what are these silly videos that I'm making online? And all the people around me would also tell me this. And so it didn't help me in transitioning out from my 9-to-5. And that 9-to-5 route, I was always conditioned to believe is the safest route. It's going to give you the income that you want, and you just work hard, just suck it up for the next 40 years, and then you'll have a big retirement account, and then you'll be able to get a pension from it, and then you can live your life and do whatever you want. But for me, I was like, why would I waste my youthful years pursuing that when I can pursue something else and take risks at my young age just to, you know, to enjoy my life so I can enjoy it and have what I want, right? So when I started to try all of these different business opportunities, I was faced with a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, and I was noticing that it wasn't working. I conceived of, you know, starting my business, my own business around 2017, 2018, but it actually took me a year to commit to starting my business. I committed to starting my business actually in 2019. Right, I was just doing so many different things before then because my subconscious mind was not fully on board. I didn't really view myself as the kind of person who is capable and worthy of starting up a business. And that's why with every single business opportunity that I tried, I always kept going back and falling back into this trap. Right? And I just didn't know what the path was. I couldn't get clear. Right? I couldn't consciously see the path forward. And I wasn't able to receive that path forward because subconsciously I was holding on to something, that belief that I was only worthy of the 9-to-5 and to be a cog in the system and just overwork and just work at this job that I hate until the day I died, or like that, until the day I retired. But when I shifted that, which is what I'm going to show you, that's when all of these opportunities started to happen and all of these synchronicities happened that allowed me to have this channel, have it to, you know, get to 800,000 subscribers and doing $2 million last year, right? Another story I can give you is one of our clients, and you're gonna like this one. His name is Lars. Lars is a chiropractor. When he joined us, he says he started a business with a business partner in July 2021 that was misaligned and ended up not working, which forced me to semi-restart in November 2022. By March 2023, we had a completely built out location. We were going full speed, but I felt like I was expending way more energy than I was getting in return with business as a whole, with the cost of also not being around my family. My partner and I have 2 young girls with the hours that I was working. I joined this program, our Reality Mastery program, last August wanting a change, and I'd been in coaching programs, immersion events, but I wanted a change. Since starting this program, I've gone from a staff of 4 to a staff of 9 high-powered performers, all seemingly fell out of the sky and aligned with me on my vision of impact. So this is kind of what happens when you remove that blockage and you start presenting a clear image to the mirror, right? Because now you're not presenting a distorted image to the mirror, you present a very clear image that becomes reflected in your physical reality. So right now, if you're not seeing what you want in your life, just ask yourself, am I presenting a clear image to the mirror? So he went from 60 to 80K a month in his revenue to wrapping up January at 200K on the nose. I'm also working about 70% of what I was working last Jan, and I have a plan set up to relieve more time to be with my young girls as they grow. And what he says, the main thing that helped him do this was vision work, consistently seeing where I want to go, emotionalizing it, and tuning into opportunities and people that are aligned in values and vision have been the things that I've doubled down on. So you can see here that this vision work signifies his commitment to presenting the right image to the mirror, right? Emotionalizing it, the thought and feeling combination, presenting this correct image, and staying with the image rather than flip-flopping between, oh no, all of these problems keep happening. Because I can assure you, it's not a smooth journey. All of these tests and challenges and all these problems will come up as you make the intention to level up. But what Lars was able to do was stay persistent. So one key thing I want you to take away from this law will be, do not try to control reality. Influence it instead. Don't try to manipulate reality by force. Don't try to move the pieces manually and forcefully. If you're not seeing what you want, ask one question. What thought feeling am I presenting to the mirror that is producing this outcome? What do I believe to be true? What are the thoughts and the feelings that I am holding on to, that I'm projecting to the mirror of reality, that is producing these outcomes that I'm seeing? Which leads very nicely into the second law of the mirror. And the second law of the mirror is that the mirror reflects your attitude towards yourself and to your reality. The mirror reflects attitude. There's three key things here. Attitude to self plus reality. Now, what do I mean by this? When I talk about your attitude to your reality, what I really mean is your paradigm, which is your worldview. AKA, how do you view your outside world? Do you view this world to be a good place or a bad place? Is this a good place for your goals to be manifested, or is this a bad place for your goals to be manifested? For example, right now you might be looking around and you're like, oh no, with this new president, all these tariffs going up, there's a lot of economic uncertainty. Well, one side of it is, oh no, now might be a terrible time to start a business or, be aggressive in my investments. Now is actually a really bad time because the markets are doing very, very badly. However, on the other side of the coin, there is another kind of person, and all of these big businesses that you look at, Uber, Apple, Microsoft, they came from these really, really dark times. They kind of came about during the recession. I could be like wrong on the exact dates, but if you do your research, you'll start to see that all of the big companies that you're seeing right now, they were actually born during really, really tough financial times, okay? And that's because someone had the courage to say, now's the time to buy the dip. So there's two types of people in this world. Those who become fearful when others are fearful, and those who become greedy when others are fearful, right? Those who are courageous, who can put on the gas and say, you know what? Everyone is fearful, now's the time to get greedy. There's a great quote by Warren Buffett, when others are fearful, become greedy. When others are greedy, become fearful. So right now, your worldview, whatever you're seeing around the world, is it affecting you? Is it pulling you into that state, or can you rise above it? Can you rise above it and ask, all this stuff is happening. There is an advantage somewhere. There is an opportunity somewhere. Where is the opportunity? There is always an opportunity. You're just asking the wrong questions. And when you ask the wrong questions, you're focusing on the wrong thing. If I keep asking myself, oh, now is such a bad time, how can I protect? Then I'm going to see more instances of where I need to protect, where I need to be scared, where I need to play defense. But if I ask myself, now is actually a very volatile time. How can I take advantage of this? Then your reticular activating system in your subconscious mind will get correctly primed to notice these opportunities. They will come to you. Kind of like it happened with Lars. The high-powered staff just fell out of nowhere. These things happen, unexplainable phenomena occur when you are correctly focused, when you're looking for the right thing. So the mirror reflects your attitude towards your reality, which is your worldview, and to yourself. And when I talk about yourself, what I mean is your identity. So when I'm talking about your identity, what I also mean is how you view yourself in relationship to the world. For example, am I the kind of person that starts a business? Am I the kind of person that increases their income? Am I the kind of person that is capable of earning that much while doing less? And that's a big lesson I had to learn, because when I first started my business, I was very, very stuck in the paradigm of I have to do everything, I can't relinquish control. And part of it is because I was in that scarcity mind by my dad, who, he grew up in poverty, and his father was his father at one point was wealthy, but he made very bad financial decisions and then ended up broke, which then made my dad get into a very poverty mindset, a scarcity mindset, and protect money. And he worked hard. My dad, he worked hard all his life, made money, and he's doing really great, but then he still has this scarcity mindset around worrying about things, worrying about money. And then he'll call me and be like, "Did you buy Bitcoin? How many Bitcoins do you have? You should sell all of them." I'm like, I didn't sell them during like the worst times. You told me initially to never buy that stuff because it's gambling, and now you're telling me to sell them. So, it doesn't make sense, right? So anyway, I get beside the point. But it's your identity is like how you view yourself in relationship to your world. Are you the kind of person who is capable of doing the thing that you want, of achieving the goal that you want? But the real question is, do you see yourself as the kind of person who's capable of effortlessly achieving that goal? So going back to my story of last year, me making 2 million and working less than 4 hours a week in the business. By the way, when I say working 4 hours in the business, I'm talking about actual stuff that I have to do in the business, like meetings, like client work, etc. But there's stuff that I do on the business, projects that I do on the business that excite me, that motivate me, that are more forward focused. Those are, I'm not counting those. When I say in the business, it's like stuff that I have to do, otherwise things will fall apart. So the way that I got to that point, because it wasn't like that. I was working like 11 hours a day, 6 days a week when I started for the first 3 years. And when I hired my first employee, I was very, very scared because I was relinquishing a lot of control. And this was a salesperson, and I delegated all of my sales work that I was doing myself, like the consultation calls we would do with our prospective clients for our programs. I was doing them all to myself. And then as soon as I delegated, I was so scared. And I was micromanaging it to the point because I didn't truly believe I was worthy of making this money with having so much free time, because all of a sudden I got freed up of so much time because I wasn't doing these prospective client calls. And so I was speaking to, I was micromanaging it, this employee that I had, poor guy, to death. And, until one day he just started crying. Like he was like, I can't do this. And then I had to really learn this hard lesson of, hey, whoa, you're getting out of control. You're becoming too hyper obsessed and focused on tiny little things instead of letting your team member make mistakes and having that empathy, right? Because I was scared. I was acting out of this fear of losing everything that I've ever worked on. So that importance was very, very high. I'd worked on this. This was my baby. I worked on this since 2019. And I finally got to a point where it is beyond my wildest dreams. I wouldn't want to do anything to sacrifice it. And so I was in that scarcity mindset, and I didn't believe I was worthy of it, and so I lost a really good employee. I didn't train him well enough, which made me go back to square one, taking the calls again on my own, right? Which I also didn't want to do at that point because I'd realized that taste of freedom. So I had to change how I viewed myself. And as soon as I did, the future employees that I hired, they lasted the longest out of every single other employees that I hired. The team members that we have, the salespeople that we have. And I was able to relinquish control and not be so needy and dependent on them doing everything perfectly because I allowed myself to have this team. And I remember exactly a year ago, I went to Hormozi's workshop thing, and I told the team hey, I'm going out of town for 3-4 days. You guys are on your own. I'm trusting you guys to manage everything. And they said, got it, no problem. And literally that week, we had a record week. We did 60 or 70K in a week. And I was like, holy crap. I wasn't even there. I let go of control and all of these good things happened. So when you let go of control, typically really great things will happen in your life. But when I get back to this point of the mirror reflecting your attitude towards yourself and your identity, that's what I want you to take away, is asking yourself 2 important questions. What is my worldview right now? How do I view the world around me? Is this a conducive place for my goals to be effortlessly manifested? Is the world right now a conducive place for my goals to be effortlessly manifested? And am I the kind of person who effortlessly achieves the goals? that I set out for myself. And one of the first questions I had to ask myself when I wanted to make $100,000 a month was, who did I have to be? What kind of Quazi did I have to be to effortlessly make 100K a month? And then shifting into that version. And then in January 2020, I started my business in Jan 2019. Jan 2020, I had my first $100,000 month. And that year was a $1.3 million year. And then every year after that, we did 1.1 to 1.4. And then last year we did 2 million. So here's the key I want you to take away. Inventory of your thoughts at all times. And how you do this is by centering your attention. When you feel like you get lost in a train of thought that is negative, you're spiraling, right? It happens in our lives. You see the news, you see what's happening around you, and you spiral. And you start comparing yourself to other people, your peers who are doing so much better than you, and they're working less, and they're, seemingly enjoying their lives. You see all this stuff on Instagram, and you start to actually believe it. You know how innocent the mind is. It starts to believe everything it sees. And so you start thinking, why not me? Why doesn't it happen to me? You're coming from a place of victimhood. You're coming from a place of, I don't already have, aka that scarcity mindset. So the couple of questions you got to ask yourself: how do you view the world? How do you view yourself? And how would you like to view the world and yourself? What do you have to believe about the world and about yourself? So what I want you to do right now is get a piece of paper and just write down one worldview. The world is a place where I can achieve the goal of this, because this. I can achieve my goals in this world today because, state 3 reasons. I am good enough to effortlessly achieve this goal because, state 3 reasons. So for example, if you were someone who was hell-bent on improving your business and making more revenue and income, you would say, now is a great time to grow my business. 2025 is a great year to grow my business because, number 1, even though economically things aren't good, there's always an opportunity. Number 2, whatever reason, I can find this unique space and take advantage of this unique opportunity. Like, you'll see the marketing message for most people will change, most people in the information marketing or e-commerce, it will address the economy in some way. It will take advantage of what's going on, of current events. So again, that's you taking advantage of what's going on right now. And number 2, on the self-view or the identity side, I am good enough to achieve this goal effortlessly because I have this, and I have this, and I study this, and I'm very, very focused on this, right? So go ahead and state those reasons down. And now let's get to law number 3, strengthening that image. And this is going to be very, very crucial for you. Okay. Now, before I get to that, I wanted to invite you to join our exclusive email list. All you need to do is go to realitycreator.com/list. I can share stuff that I can't really share anywhere else on the channel because of YouTube's platform limitations. That will be my personal email list where I send 3 to 4 emails every single week with thoughts that I have, personal stories and things that I'm going through and lessons that I've learned. And all you need to do is just go to realitycreator.com/list to access that. And just upon joining, as a bonus, you're going to get the 5-video identity shifting bootcamp series that literally prospective clients have used who aren't even part of our paid programs and have gotten amazing results with. Okay, so all you need to go to is realitycreator.com/list. And let's return to law number 3, strengthening the image in the mirror. All right, now let's talk about strengthening the image in the mirror. Understand that the reflection that you're seeing, we are forming an image with a thought-feeling combination. What is thought and feeling? The unity of heart and mind. We make an imprint in the fabric of reality or the reflection by having a coherence in heart and mind. And that's why there is so much ancient knowledge that goes around synchronizing, harmonizing your heart and mind. And modern science is even talking about synchronizing the 2 hemispheres of the brain, the left and right hemispheres. So they're only starting to find this out right now, but the ancient sages knew this throughout the dawn of time. There is a very important thing that happens, a very powerful thing that happens when we successfully synchronize heart and mind together, when the heart and the mind work together. For most people, it's working in 2 different directions. They intellectually are clear about something, or they think they want something, but they feel they want something else, right? And it takes them in 2 different directions. And that's why you feel like you're lacking purpose in your life. You're going all over the place. You don't feel fulfilled, and every single day you wonder, like, what's meant for me? Is this it? Is this it? If that's the way that you're feeling, this is why. And this is why you can't find that sure thing that makes your life an actual vacation. And I've worked with over 1,500 clients. This is the number one thing, the number one problem that we see. It's because they're not presenting a clear image to the mirror. Okay? Why that happens is because of this phenomenon I like to call a lack of image clarity. Okay? Image clarity. Why this happens is because our minds go in one direction, hearts go in the other direction. For example, look at your attention right now. When you set a goal, why are you setting that goal in the first place? If you want to quit your job, what do you want instead? You want to quit your job, or you want to quit this job, or you want to stay at this job, but you don't want to work the hours. You're focusing on what you don't want. What do you want instead? What is wanted instead? I want to make 20K a month working 4 hours a week. I knew that when I started. I want to do a 4-hour work, because I remember reading 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and I was like, that is what I want. I 100% want that. Well, how much money do you want to make doing that? I'd love to make 20K a month. The reason you can't have what you want is because you've been programmed to feel guilty for wanting more in life, okay? For a lot of people, it's that religious guilt. You know, you've been raised in a Christian household maybe, or just in an immigrant mindset of like, you got to work hard to earn your place. That is the old way of living, the old programming. And you'll see a lot of, different generations have this kind of programming, but nowadays you see kids who do nothing and they make a shit ton of money. Why? Because they allow themselves to. They allow themselves to. They give themselves permission. They almost feel entitled to it. You have to feel entitled to your dream reality. Everything that you've ever wanted in your life, you have to feel entitled to it. If you don't feel entitled to it, you'll never have it. If you feel like you got to trade something to have it, then that's exactly what's going to happen. That's what the mirror of reality is going to reflect. I know a lot of people are going to be watching this and they're going to cringe and be like, oh, you're just teaching people to never work hard. That's not what I'm saying. There's a difference between working hard and loving the work that you do, that it doesn't feel hard anymore. You enjoy it. You wake up excited to do the work. I was working with one of our mastermind clients and he constantly tells me like, hey, I'm making these videos, but I feel like I'm making them to get an outcome. I need to do this to get there, right? Instead of, I love doing this. I enjoy doing this. And something great comes out of it. I enjoy that. I have fun doing that, right? So there's a difference between doing the thing and loving the thing, getting the outcome and loving the outcome, versus I need to get an outcome to get away from this. So for most people who want to start a business and quit their jobs, they're like, I got to get away from this job. Oh, I hate this job. The more you keep focusing on what you hate, the more of what you hate you will get. Simple. That's how the mirror of reality works. It doesn't discriminate. It reflects the purified content of your thoughts, not the context of your thoughts. It doesn't care about what you hate and what you love. It looks at the content of what you hate and what you love. You hate your job? Here you go. More job, more responsibilities, more work. You love money, you love growing, you love becoming better. Here you go. More great things happen to you. More, you become more and more lucky and more things fall into your lap. Have you ever noticed those people like who are super optimists and all of a sudden, for some reason, just like great things keep happening to them. Great things always happen to them. And you kind of think, oh, that's a little bit toxic because, you're just not being real. But for some people, they have resolved their inner traumas, if you will. They've done the shadow work. They've healed their inner child. And they have genuinely arrived at this place of optimism. And you can see in their lives that things just keep getting better and better year after year. And the reason you feel triggered by that is because you have something within you that's unresolved, right? And that's what brings this envy up, because you believe that you need to trade something, to give something, to get something. There is no such thing as a free lunch, right? They have all of these sayings, all of these great and stupid sayings that have just stuck around because they're catchy. Have you ever thought about sayings? Like they've just stuck around because they're catchy, not because they have actual merit to them. So be careful about what saying you're buying into, okay? So watch where your attention is. So for me, when I mentioned to you, when I wanted to quit my job and I wanted to go into business full time, I kept focusing on the misery of the job that I was in. And I kept focusing on every single business tactic I tried. I tried trading, I tried, drop shipping, I looked into affiliate marketing, and I could never fully go into it because I was like, oh, I hate this, I can't do this, I don't like this. And so I was never able to fully commit. The truth is, I would have been successful in any one of those. If I truly, truly committed, I would have 100% succeeded in any single one of those opportunities. But I didn't enjoy them, and I was looking at them as a means to an end, as opposed to enjoying growing in affiliate marketing or trading and then making money and just becoming better and better every single day. But with YouTube, I could focus on that. I was focusing on becoming a better communicator every time I made a video. I was focusing on, attracting more of the right clientele to me. I was focusing on sharing the right message. I was focusing on having these epiphanies and being able to convey them in a crazy mad scientist kind of way with all these diagrams, etc. I was focusing on the chalkboard and being an educator, so I was focusing on these things. I was taking pride in these things, and truly I had programmed myself to feel entitled to the things that I want. And I have this music teacher, I talk to her all the time, and she constantly tells me like, hey, I'm working on like growing my business. What piece of advice would you have for me? And she was raised in a religious household, and she was raised to view money as evil, right? And so she was like, oh, I actually kind of want to make money, but it's not noble to want money. And I was like, screw that. Love money. It's great. Money is wonderful. It blesses your life. You should want to be rich. Being rich is your birthright. It's amazing to be rich. Why would you want to be poor? Why would why do you believe that it's noble to be poor and struggling? Why? It's not serving you anyway. You could be rich and humble if you wanted. If humility is your big thing, you could be rich and then you could be humble. My biggest pet peeve was, and this is because that's what I was embodying, was people who would shit on wealthier people when they were poor, when they had no experience of what it's like to be wealthy, to be on the other side. You can only do that once you've made wealth and you're like, you know what? I've done it. It's actually not that fulfilling. Like, making more money isn't fulfilling. What is fulfilling is what money allows you to do, what you can do with it. And what's fulfilling is when your money doesn't own you, you actually own it. And if you lost it all, you wouldn't care. That's true freedom, right? So a lot of people talk about like, oh, when I was poor, like a lot of wealthy people talk about that. Like when I was, starting up and I didn't have a lot of these things, life was a lot easier for you because you've built your success unconsciously. That's why you're suffering your success. Whatever you build unconsciously, you will suffer. If you build your success consciously, you will always enjoy it because you've built it, and you will always be able to replicate it. You will never be afraid. You will never live in fear. For those who build their success unconsciously, they're always fearing it's lost the next day. True story. Look at all the people who are wealthy and they're clutching onto their money. It's because they're afraid of losing it. What way is that to live? You've made money, enjoy it. There's a great book I read recently by, I can't remember the name of the author, Bill Perkins. It's called Die with Zero. And the premise is you make money and then the goal of your life is to die with zero. The most efficient way. And that's obviously after you've allocated money to your kids, to your family, to charities that you love. After that, you should die with zero because that's the path of highest efficiency. You die with zero. And on his 40th birthday, he must have spent like, a couple $100,000 booking out this hotel in the Caribbean and flying out all of his friends. That's what money's meant for, to trade it for experiences like those, right? I get beside the point. So that's what I was focusing on that kept me stuck for a very long time. I was presenting an unclear image. My heart was in one place, my mind was in other, right? So in my heart, I genuinely hated the 9-to-5, and I kept focusing on that unconsciously, while consciously I thought I wanted to get away from the 9-to-5 and start my own business. Well, I could have started a business and it could have been worse than my 9-to-5, right? It could have been even more work. And then I would have, begged to go back to that 9-to-5, right? So a lot of people do that, by the way. They start businesses that make them work even harder, and they basically sell their souls to their businesses. So you have to become very, very clear about the image that you're projecting or presenting to the mirror. You have to be very clear about the image you're presenting to the mirror, because that's what the purified content of it will be reflected. Now, what's the biggest blocker that you'll find prevents you from presenting a clear image to the mirror? And that is subconsciously embodied blocks. So you might find that from time to time, you feel these pangs of anxiety coming up within your body, and you don't know why they happen. And it used to happen to me a lot when I started off. And I was like, nothing bad has happened. I just feel depressed for no reason. Like, why? There's definitely something, but it's not conscious. It's not conscious. It's completely subconscious. And that is your past karma or things that you've collected in your past, either past lives or in this present life, but in the past, that is coming up, arising within your consciousness that wants to be dealt with. But what we do is binge eat, look at social media, consume something, an addictive behavior, vape, toke, whatever it is you consume, right? You do that and it takes you away from that. It makes you escape. you unconsciously escape, you suppress those feelings, and then they get pent up even deeper within your psyche until one day you have an outburst and you don't know why that happened. And that's where this letting go process comes in. Learning to let whatever is be and staying with the tension of that feeling. If for some reason you feel anxious, instead of running away from the anxiety, stay with that feeling of anxiety and locate where it happens within the body. Where is it occurring within your body? Stay with that feeling. Do not run away from it. Because what will happen is the more you stay with it, it becomes sublimated. It becomes like a pressure cooker. The pressure of it becomes relieved. There's a great book on this, David R. Hawkins, Letting Go. Read that book if you haven't. It's going to completely change your life. It's changed my life. I've read it like maybe 4 times. The essence of it is there are different mechanisms, different ways in which we deal with our feelings. The lowest way is repression. We're not even aware of it. When it rises up, it's suppressed. We suppress something. And when we suppress it, it eventually becomes repressed. But when it's rising up, you'll start to notice it consciously that you're suppressing it. It feels tense. You want to run away from it. A level above that is expressing. You act out. It's coming up so much now, it's making you act out. And the highest level is surrender or letting it go, aka letting it be, full acceptance of what is without trying to change it. And sometimes this process takes a very, very long time, but in the light of your awareness, the darkness gets dissolved. Okay? This is also a form of shadow work. If you're familiar with Carl Jung and shadow work and inner child healing, that's, the main mechanism is this letting go process. So that's for another video. I won't get into that today, but this does bring me very, very nicely into the 4th law of the mirror, the delay principle. So right now I'm going to, we got time. So right now I'm going to draw a diagram, a graph, if you will. On the x-axis, we have time, t, and on the y-axis, we have results, r. I'm going to use 2 different colors to demonstrate this. You have this half a cycle of a sinusoid, and you have this half a cycle of a sinusoid. Now, what the white graph represents is your inner world I. And the peak of your inner world happens at this time, t peak, okay? I know this seems like a high school science lesson, but I promise you this is simpler than it seems. And this is also t peak of this blue graph, which is your external world, the reflection of the mirror. This is reflection, and this is the image I. Is that what I said? I'm sure that's what I said. Okay, so let me explain to you how this works. The mirror of reality operates with a delay. The mirror of reality reflects the image that you presented to it with a delay. Pay very close attention to this. What does this mean? My thoughts and feelings that I'm presenting to the mirror are reflected with a slight delay. The delay is dependent on the subjective complexity or the perceived complexity of my goal. So delay is proportional to perceived complexity of goal. What do I mean by this? If you are at a job, a 9-to-5 job, a full-time corporate job, you hate it, you're working 60 hours a week and more, you want to transition out, you've figured that starting your own business is the way to go, that is more complex than you finding a different job with less hours. 2 goals here. You could do 2 things. You find a different job where you work part-time, or you start your own business. Starting your own business to replace your income is a little more complex, perceived complexity-wise, because it's a whole new skill set that you haven't quite acquired yet. Whereas just getting a new job with less hours, maybe slightly lower pay, is easier, right? Perceived complexity of the latter goal is lower. Therefore, the delay is lower, okay? So now, if reality is reflected with a delay, if we look at a reasonably complex goal, let's say Quazi wants to start his own business to get him freedom and get him away from that 9-to-5 that makes him very, very unhappy. The blue is the reflection, the physical manifestation of my goal. The white is the image that I'm presenting to the mirror. You begin, your results are 0. So, you begin feeling kind of down, feeling low. And then over time, you start to feel very, very good. You start to present the right image to the mirror. You're manifesting, you're doing well. And at TP, you get to the peak of your internal state. Now, what happens is at T peak, reality is actually at its lowest point because there's a delay. And then when I look at this, I become frustrated because I'm looking at my results and I'm like, oh, there is no result. Nothing's happening. And so I start to feel down. I start to feel down for a very long time. But what happens is, when you feel the lowest of lows, your reality is at the peakest of peaks. You'll start to notice that when you're starting to feel low, all of a sudden, things start to work out. You're like, whoa, it's like God gave me these blessings. The reason why that happens is because your past good attitude is being reflected now. It's showing up now. It just had to take some time. And for the longest time, I believed that if I were a victim and I complained to God, He would give me everything that I wanted. True story. I believed that if I threw my arms up and started crying to God, like, why not me, why not me, why not me, I would get everything that I wanted. But what was happening was I was flip-flopping, I was oscillating between these two states of elation, depression, elation, depression. And my elated states were being reflected with a delay. Craziest thing ever. And then I started to notice how up and down my life was. One day I would feel great, next day I would feel low, and then I would feel great and I would feel low. I would start to look at what's happening and what's not happening, and it would make me feel very, very sad. It's like, why isn't it happening? Why isn't the business working? Why can't I make the money that I want to make to help me quit, to help me sustain myself and grow, etc. And that's exactly why that happened, because I was flip-flopping every single area of my life, dating, health, etc. And this is why that happens, because there is a delay. So the mirror of reality operates with a delay. What does this mean? The image that you present to the mirror, you must hold it. Stay with the image. Be persistent and consistent in the image that you present. Law number 3 taught us to be consistent with the image that we present. Law number 4 teaches us to be persistent with the image that we present to the mirror. Law number 5 is going to change everything, because law number 5 is the cycle through which the mirror of reality operates. So let's get to that right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are here for the mirror cycle, the final law of the mirror. And once you understand this, it's over. It's done. Everything's going to be very, very simple. So please pay close attention to this final law. Here is the mirror cycle. We now know the 4 main laws of the mirror. The final law actually puts everything into perspective on how things operate. So how the cycle of the mirror works is there's 2 types of people who implement this. The cycle works through image, reflection, and our personal observation. Pretty simple, right? Hold on. When I make an observation, I'm observing my current reality as it is. I'm observing what I'm seeing right now. So there's a cycle that this operates. It just depends on where we start the process in the cycle. There is a start point for true creators of their reality, the wizards, and there's a start point for the puppets who fall slave to the effect. Wizards are at the cause and not the effect. Puppets are at the effect and not the cause. If you're not seeing the kind of results that you want in your life, and you're seeing that bad things are getting compounded and bad thing after bad thing keeps happening, this is why, okay? So let's begin with the cycle for puppets. People who are at the effect, the mercy of their reality, and not at the cause. I was a puppet. That's why I experienced this. That's why I struggled for the longest time. Still happens to me from time to time, but these are reminders that I need to give to myself. So for the puppet, they begin at observation. They look at the current state of their reality, which, by the way, are delayed reflections of past attitudes. If you're looking at your reality right now, you're working at a job you hate, hours that you hate, sure, you're making good money, but you don't get to spend time with your family. You don't get to do what you love to do. You're working in a business and you can't see your way out of this business. You observe your current reality. You're like, oh, I hate this. That forms the basis for your image. You present that image to the mirror. I hate these long hours. I hate this business. I hate this job. I can't believe I'm working so much. I'm burning out. I can't see a way out. I'm hitting this ceiling. You present that image to the mirror. What does the image do? It reflects this. It says, oh, you're burnt out? Okay, you're burnt out. Working 60-hour weeks and you hate the hours that you work. Here are more hours that you're going to hate working. Here you go. Here's more of what you've already expected. And then when they get more, they observe that reflection. They're like, oh, man, nothing's changing. I'm still stuck here. I can't believe it's been 15 years and I'm still stuck in this situation. I can't believe things have just stagnated for me and things are just getting worse. I just can't seem to see a way out of it. And then this whole cycle repeats again. Now, if I were to flip that and show you how it works for wizards, people who take advantage of this, they manipulate this cycle for their own gain, which is what I want you to do. This is what it looks like for them. They begin by consciously choosing the image. They ignore their current reality. They turn away from the world. Be in the world, not of it. Don't be products of the world. They're at the cause and not the effect. So they choose consciously the image they want to present. Just like I did, that allowed me to break free. I am the kind of person who works 4 hours a week and makes $1 million a year. The world is the right place for me to work 4 hours a week and make $1 million per year. Okay, if that's what you say, then I'll reflect that. Mirror of reality reflects this. Tiny reflections, right? Initially tiny reflections. A video getting a lot of views, a video getting good comments, someone reaching out saying, I love your stuff, it's amazing. What does the wizard do? The wizard is building a new reality. When you're constructing a new reality, what do? You stack the confirmations. You show your mind that this is true, this is real. You start to surround yourself with people in other programs or other communities, other masterminds. You invest in yourself. You start to look at these other people who are making $100,000 a month, $500,000 a month, $1 million a month, $1 million a month, $5 million a month. You're like, holy shit, I'm only trying to make a pesky $100,000 a month. Here's people making $1 million a month. This is nothing. Piece of cake. You look at these proofs and you're like, I can do it too. So then that becomes your observation point. So you see how I flip the cycle? Instead of starting at observation and observing my current reality, I'm beginning with the image that I want to choose. And then I look at what I want to see. I become very biased. Every single successful person, every single billionaire, millionaire that you know of has done this. They only see what they want to see. They're very biased. They have a very strong sense of reality. They do this. They look at what they want to see. And that's it. And you might hate them. Some of the richest people, you might hate Trump, you might hate Musk and Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. Like, you might hate all those guys, but something they're doing has allowed them to have an immense amount of influence. How can we do it too? How can we take advantage of that so we can create our lives and break free from the system that was designed to enslave us? This is how. Be at the cause and not the effect. So here's the key I want you to take away from this, and this took me a really, really, really long time to figure out. Stop peeking. Stop peeking at the reflection. Stay with the image until the reflection becomes so bright it knocks you out. What most people do is they work on the image. They're like, did it happen? Oh man, it didn't happen yet. When you do that, what are you doing? You're assuming the possibility that it doesn't happen. There is a very deep principle of reality that scientists have just figured out very recently, maybe last 80 years, which is somewhat recent. The uncertainty principle. Before I observe a phenomenon, it exists in both of the states. It's in a state of quantum superposition, right? It both exists and doesn't exist at the same time. If you're trying to manifest an outcome, before you check whether it's happening or not, it both is and it isn't. But the moment you check, something materializes. Don't check. Don't keep checking. Let it knock on your door and say, I'm here. You've been working on me for a while, I'm here. So stay with it in your internal world and make it so real that it has to show up to your door. That's it. If you look at the most successful people and the sport I can give you a really great example of is golf. When they get to the end, most golfers, they don't incessantly check the scoreboard. They just focus on their game. They just focus on their game and shooting the best score they can. The moment you take your eye off the game and you start focusing on the score, what happens? You assume there's a possibility that you lose. You get what you prepare for. If you prepare for failure, you're going to get failure. Have you seen this? People are like, oh, I got to prepare, times are tough. That's what you're going to get. Be prepared for failure, but do not continually expend so much energy preparing for failure. Be prepared for it when it happens. Do not let it take your emotional energy. Do not let it influence your attitude. So if you've got to this point in the video, I applaud you. And here's one invitation for you to work closer together with me and my team to help you make 2025 your year. All you need to do is go to realitycreator.com/apply to fill up an application to work one-on-one with me, where we will do one main thing. The main thing we help our clients do, the deepest possible layer of transformation, is helping them shift their identity. For most people, they've done the different techniques, they've tried the affirmations, the meditations, the visualizations, and all of those things, all of that work that they've done hasn't worked for them because those are techniques. What needs to happen for you to achieve a fundamental shift, a permanent shift, is your identity needs to shift. How you view yourself in relationship to your world and how you view the world, right? That we talked about here with the mirror principle. Until that happens, it doesn't matter what you achieve. You will A, squander it, just like lottery winners do once they win the lottery, or B, you'll never achieve it in the first place. And that's why over the past 6 years, we've helped over 1,500 clients do this for themselves. And that's why you see clients like Lars getting the kind of results that he's gotten, or our client Tia, who used to work 80 hours a week in 2 different jobs. She started working with us. She was able to get rid of $300,000 in student loan debt, erase that, become $1 million in net worth. And not only that, she quit those 2 jobs, started her own business making $40K a month, and now she gets to spend more time with her family, with her speech pathology, speech therapy business. Why was this possible? Because Tia went from seeing herself as someone who's only worthy of 2 9-to-5s and an abusive boss to someone who's worthy of starting her own business and being worth so much. She had to shift her identity and how she fundamentally viewed herself. And I've not seen any other programs get the kind of results that our clients are getting, so I can confidently tell you we've figured something out, and this is it. Shifting your identity and becoming who you are meant to be is the only way to go. With everything going so crazy right now in the world, now is the best time to shift your identity, because you can capitalize on an opportunity that was never existent before. Whilst most people are in fear, they're protective, you're going to be in offense mode, in aggression, and taking what's yours because you are entitled to what's yours. So if that's something you're interested in, just go to realitycreator.com/apply to fill up a short application, and you'll qualify. If you do qualify, you'll be able to speak to one of our head coaches to see if you're a fit and do a deeper dive into your situation. Just to be completely transparent, we get over 1,000 applications every single month, and we cancel literally 95% of applicants that we get because we are looking for the perfect fit, because we want results like Lars and Tia. Therefore, our program, Reality Mastery, is for 2 types of people. Number 1, if you are an entrepreneur, you feel burnt out, you've been doing this for a while and you're stuck. You hit this invisible ceiling and you just don't know how to grow without doing even more. It's because your identity is tied to what you're achieving currently, and that's why you have to keep fighting to maintain this. Or you experience a revenue roller coaster. One month is great, another month is not, and it's not consistent. Why? Because your identity isn't consistent. You haven't eased into and allowed yourself to have the revenue that you wanted to make and the profit that you wanted to make. And that's why your identity needs to shift. Number 2, you're a corporate professional, you're a full-time employee, you're in a full-time job, and you find that you're burnt out, you're working really long hours, and again, you can't see a way out. You've also hit a ceiling in your career. You either want to transition out or you want to get a different job. But the thing that's not happening right now is you're not seeing a clear path forward. Why? Because your identity is not in the right place. You haven't clearly figured out who you must become to achieve what you want, because you don't fully know what you want to achieve. So you have 2 types of problems. So you have a clarity problem and an identity problem. And once we help you shift your identity, your RAS gets properly aligned so you can see those opportunities that will lead you to where you actually want to get to. So if this sounds like you, all you need to do is go to realitycreator.com/apply or click the link in the description to apply. And I'm looking forward to seeing your application.